Okay, so Chapter 18, Great Depression, World War II. Essential questions. What were the major causes of the Great Depression? What factors allowed the rise of totalitarian dictators like Mussolini and Hitler? What were the main causes and effects of World War II? And how were the Allies able to defeat the dictators and win the war? So World War I and prosperity and depression. Europe in 1919 differed in many significant ways from before World War I. The former imperial governments of Germany, Russia, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire were gone. New states such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, and the Baltic states had emerged. Russia was in the midst of a civil war. So Reconstruction and prosperity. The first years after the war were not easy ones. People in Central Europe suffered from famine caused by wartime blockade of foodstuffs. Returning soldiers faced unemployment. 1919, a flu epidemic killed as many people as the war itself. Farms, cities, and railroad lines had been torn up in the fighting. Europeans spent the next 5 years rebuilding and recovering from the war. The Treaties of Versailles. Germans had made huge reparation payments for the war to France and Britain, and this slowed the German economic recovery. Germany printed extra money to pay the debt. This caused hyperinflation. Picture of some of the airplanes that were taken from Germany after World War I. Pictures of German soldiers having to beg on the streets, and an actual picture of how useless the money was in Germany at that time. So Reconstruction and prosperity. The United States emerged from the war as the world's great economic power. During the war, Britain and France had purchased war goods from the United States on credit. Countries were now deeply in debt. Americans faced a brief recession when the war ended, but the American consumer soon began buying mass-produced goods made in American factories. One of the most important factors promoting American prosperity was the invention of the automobile. It came into widespread use in the United States and in Europe after the war. And in 1924, Ford produced its 10 millionth Model T. 9 out of every 10 cars in the world were Fords. Here's European debt after the Great War, after World War I. You can see Germany was in the worst shape. So the 1920s, the Roaring Twenties, Reconstruction and prosperity. Consumers in both America and Europe also benefited from new electronic appliances. Vacuum cleaners, refrigerators, and toasters. People for the first time went to movies. They listened to the radio for the first time. America invested some of their wealth overseas, so in Europe, especially in Germany. By the late 1920s, American prosperity had spread all the way into Europe. Europeans began once again buying goods from their colonies. Prosperity spread further into Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The 1920s expression of new values, partly as an outcome of the war. Women worked in place of men during the war and now receive the right to vote in the United States, Great Britain, and other countries. Women enjoyed greater freedom than they ever had before. So here's a picture of some of the different things. Here's a toaster, of course. This is a vacuum cleaner. It's one of the early refrigerators. Women started going to college for the first time. People enjoyed the movies, and this is a hair dryer. More women pursued a higher education. And then here's some advertising from the time. Okay, some of the things that they, first came up with at that time. Here's a watch that has what you would call kind of GPS maps of where to go. This is an early nose hair trimmer, and then some of the things that came in the 20s. The Great Depression. By 1929, we had the Great Depression. What had happened is the stock market crash in New York started a chain reaction that sent the world economy into a Great Depression. A depression is an economic downturn in which large numbers of businesses fail and workers are unemployed. Prices of stocks started falling and nothing could hold them up as people scrambled to sell. People who lost their money in the stock market stopped spending. American banks and investors recalled their loans from Europe, and the depression quickly spread worldwide. As many as 40 million people were soon unemployed in the United States, Germany, Japan, and other industrialized countries. Farmers in Eastern Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America could no longer sell their cash crops. What factors caused the Great Depression? The stock market and real estate over-speculation. People thought they were going to make money from both of these and over-speculated. Investors borrowed money to invest in order to make a quick profit. Overproduction. At first, there was great demand for all the new products that had been shown in the notes already, but soon the production of consumer products became greater than people had money to buy. So they kept making things and people just didn't need them anymore. And the interrelationship of loans and debts between Europe and America ensured that the recession would quickly spread throughout the whole world. So what the United States did during the Great Depression, most government leaders reacted poorly to the Great Depression, making things even worse. They stopped spending government money, which they should have done the opposite. They tightened their credit, which meant they didn't loan out anything. They ended international trade. So people also had no safety net. So once they lost everything, there was no way for them to. There was no safety net. There was nothing to back them up. So there was no unemployment insurance at that time, no Social Security at that time, and this all changed when Franklin Roosevelt came up with the New Deal. It attempted to put many people into public works, so jobs that the government would hire people to do. They also had the Social Security Act, where you paid into Social Security, and eventually you would get that as you retired.